Hello, I'm Denise Galoni. Welcome to today's episode of Empowering You. My guest today is Michael Devine. For decades, Michael's been involved with event hosting, live music, comedy, and radio. He has great stories to share with you today and also great message about how to keep going when you're self-employed and how to persevere. I hope you enjoy today's episode.
It's gonna be better. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be better. Yeah. It's gonna be great. I can't wait. It's gonna be great.
The show is called Empowering You, and my guest today does just that. I don't know anyone that enjoys what he does more than Michael Devine. For decades, Michael has been involved with event hosting, live music, comedy, and radio. And I've known him for a few years, so he told me I'm going to hear some surprises too. So I can't wait for you to meet Michael.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Well, thanks for having me. It's just it's kind of strange to talk about myself, but if this helps people empower themselves and figure things out, that's a great thing. I've never really had that kind of guidance. I was just always kind of like just following different avenues and just I think a lot of what I really believe is that you keep adding positive things to your life. I mean, this is where I'm at now is a culmination of about 40 years of just, trial and error.
Yeah,
I do have a saying though, if at first you don't succeed, just give up because there's other stuff you can do.
there's a
So
lot of stuff you can do. So I know now, usually when I see you, you're the one asking questions. So this is a little bit different for you now. You're in the hot seat.
yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. It's going to be interesting to see two people that talk for a living, how this is going to go.
It's good. It's all good, believe me.
So let me start. First, I just want to mention that I know you are self-employed.
Yes.
At many times in my life, I've been self-employed. How do you maintain that? There may be people that are watching this and thinking, I'm afraid to do something. I need that safety net. How do I keep going? Because and I think I know what you're going to say, but we'll see. 'Cause it's
Okay.
scary. It's scary not having that paycheck coming in every 2 weeks.
Well, first off, you got to understand there's a couple different avenues. You just can't jump in and say, I want to be self-employed. It takes a certain kind of person. And for example, the thing that I don't know if you're familiar with, it's called diver's panic. Okay.
No.
This is what a lot of people who are self-employed really should watch out for. A thing called diver's panic. Imagine somebody that's scuba diving. Okay. They're
Mhm.
having a great time, but then they start thinking, oh my gosh, I have a tank on my back. What if something goes wrong with that tank? And I have a hose going up here. I'm under the water. What if something goes wrong? And they start to hyperventilate because they're worried about what can go wrong. And that
Sure.
just exasperates the situation and makes something bad happen. So a diver's panic is something you really have to watch right from the very beginning. Just and diversify. That's the other thing. Always have
Right, right.
of different things going on. If you want to be self-employed, I hate to say like all the eggs in one basket. Don't do that.
No.
Find how I started. What I tell people, it says make a list of everything you enjoy doing that you could possibly make money at. The people, oh, I like eating, I like watching TV. Well, you're not going to make money doing that. You're not going to be able to survive doing them. Like things you enjoy doing. Say if you like doing mosaic work, or you like doing music, or you like doing crafts, or you like doing public speaking, all those kind of things. How can I make a living doing something like that? And
Right.
so that to me is kind of like a really good formation. Another thing is I have another rule for self-employment.
Okay.
Two rules are I don't want a boss and I don't want to be a boss. If you're going to be
Oh,
self-employed,
right.
just count on yourself.
Yeah.
Getting a partner, that's always a sticky situation. And it's never going to go 100% your way. So
Right.
it's always kind of nice to kind of like be your own boss, but and not have to worry about anybody. I mean, there's other times people were saying, hey, you're doing this really great DJ business, because that's one of the things I do is I do some DJing. And I
Yeah.
said, well, you should hire other DJs. You should get DJs to work for you. Why? I'd worry about them the whole time. And it's just not worth the money. And all the other good DJs are going to be working for themselves. They're not going to be working for you. So
Right. Right.
that's the other thing.
Yeah.
So I can keep going because how it all started. How it all started is
Yeah,
just
that's what I asked. How did it start? How did it start?
it started with me working right out of high school at a computer job that I just absolutely hated. It was very poorly managed. A lot of it's a lot of one of these real toxic work situations.
Mm,
And back then, nobody really did anything
no,
about it. You just kind of like, well,
it
this
was
is
work. That's what it was,
it was
right?
work. And so I just always just remembered, always having in the back of my mind, what can I do? What can I do? What? And this started when I was like 19. I said, well, I know what I don't want to do. That's important too. I don't want to do this. And I wanted to do stand-up comedy. And I actually did a film all about this. I don't know if you know, but I did a film
Yeah.
called Schmo Business. It's on YouTube, SCHMOBIZNESS, and it basically documents the stand-up comedy career I had. I did that for like about 10 years. It was
Okay.
me, and once again, I involved partners. So that's where I've learned not to get partners. But it was really fascinating because it was a troupe. It started out with four guys, and it ended up being a comedy team. We toured all over the country through the 90s, and that's when
Wow.
every place had comedy clubs. You know,
Yeah, right.
Stitches and Chuckles and Yuck Yucks. And it's interesting. What killed comedy was karaoke. This was before karaoke. So all the clubs had like, hey, let's have a comedy night. And then when somebody said, hey, we got this karaoke machine, we don't need these comics. That's
Right.
exactly, that's exactly what killed all those comedy nights. So you would travel the country doing a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in a bar, and then there'd be a weekend comedy club like a Tickles or a Chuckles in a strip mall. And the reason why those were so popular, it's before HBO got a comedy. You know, if you wanted to hear, you know, comics, you know, I guess they'd be on the more blue side. You had to go to a nightclub to
Sure. Right.
I mean,
Right.
there was no comedy specials on HBO. There was no YouTube. Can you imagine that?
No, what do we do without YouTube?
There was no internets, so you had to kind of make your own fun. And
So is that how you did you go from comedy to radio?
I went into theater first because I started in comedy and I
Okay.
just bombed out horribly.
Mm.
Um, it was months and months and months of doing amateur nights. The people I worked with is interesting. I worked with Drew Carey when he was doing stand when he started out.
I
Uh,
saw him when he first started out. He came to the Funny Bone.
yeah,
He was
this is even
hysterical.
before that. This is before
Yeah.
that at the Cleveland Comedy Club in the late 1970s. It's
Yeah. Wow.
crazy. So yeah, say early 80s, late 70s. And
Yeah.
people like him worked with him and like Steve Harvey, Tim Allen, Dennis Miller, all these people. So, you know, I see, you know, and for every success story, there's a million guys like me who just did it for a living for a
Right.
while. And
Right.
the film I did is about a 70-minute film. It was great. I had a guy do animation, so there's a cartoon narration behind it. One of the guys that was my partner documented everything video wise. So they had and then I met up with these guys that I did comedy with from 25 years ago. We met in a bar and we just shot it and we just interspersed it all together. And I made the film myself because I thought it'd be a fun thing to do. So I started out in comedy, then I bombed out, then I went into theater. And what's really important is taking improvisational theater classes. I think that really helps people with even with job interviews, helps
Yeah,
them.
I've never done that. It's on my list to do. I really want to do that.
It's a real fun thing because it gets you to think on your feet and kind of gets you to stay one step, kind of staying one step ahead of what you're saying. So it's a real nice way to train your mind into thinking on your feet. And so from theater, I start writing some theater plays after theater play. And this is all while I was working this terrible job that was, you know, just I was it was so sad. The job was so terrible. I still have nightmares about it. It was that long ago, and I still have nightmares about that
Wow.
same
Wow.
job. Like I'll like wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like at this card sorter because this is when they had data cards. I'm
Oh
like,
my gosh.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
going way back now. People, the younger generation say, what are they talking about?
These are like Flintstone computers. There's like so it's really interesting that kind of that kind of thing still kind of haunts me now, which you know I think it keeps me grounded, helps me really be very happy with.
Motivated.
So I traveled on the road doing 10 years doing comedy, and when the comedy dried up, I got into music, and then I worked at a record store, and then like, hey, I sure would like to be a radio disc jockey. And because I remember as a kid, this is so weird how things just come back. When I was a kid, I remember calling a radio station and I wanted to hear a song. I wanted to do a dedication, and they wouldn't play it. In the back of my mind, like someday I'm going to be a disc jockey and I'll play whatever I want to hear.
Right,
So
right.
I just kind of follow those opportunities, and it's pretty modest. It's just community radio, um, like the college stations, but still, it's a great little outlet, and I still do it today. I've been doing radio for like 30 years now.
Wow,
So
wow.
that's the other thing. Don't burn any bridges. I know the city has a lot of bridges, but always gravitate towards like a lot of positive stuff and
Yeah,
try and end things as amicably as you can. If
you
things
have to. You never know when you'll be back.
I know so many people that just have like, and they can't talk to this person. And that does happen with human beings. But from a business standpoint,
You can't.
you really have to understand, even if you don't think this person can never do anything for me. How do you know? And why would you even do that? It's always good to be nice to everybody. Eddie Cantor, going way back to the 1920s and 30s, Eddie Cantor was a vaudeville comedian. He said the most important thing in public speaking, in anything, is to have people like you, be likable. He says if people like you, you can get away with anything. If you're
Right,
likable, you don't have to be as funny as the funniest comedian. You don't have to be as great as this other musician. But if you're likable, they'll cut you a lot of slack.
right, right. And then we're going to talk about your live music in a little bit because I want
Sure,
to
sure, sure.
definitely talk about that. But so how I met you was I know that you host a lot of events
Hmm.
and you have a fun job
Hmm. Oh yeah.
because you get to interview. Well, you have many fun jobs, but this one job you get to interview many celebrities,
Mhm.
and we're talking some local celebrities, but big time celebrities.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
how did you get started with that? And do you want to talk a little bit about Still City
Yeah.
Con?
This is really funny. This story is called the best job interview in the world. So uh, I've always been involved with radio and involved with events, and I had a band that played a lot of monster music. We were called the Graveyard Rockers, and we played Cedar Point for 14 years, which was a
Wow.
fun job. We played their Halloween weekends, playing Monster Mash and a bunch
Yeah,
of
sure.
like capes and hats, and that was a fun job with me and the band I had at that time. And I got to know a guy by the name of Kevin Kreis, who runs the Living Dead Museum. And he goes, "Well,
Yes.
can you come out and play?" Actually, I contacted him. Can my band come play your Living Dead thing? We're a monster band. And this was a while ago. And Kevin goes, "Oh, that's kind of cool." So I did that, and we played Monster Bash, which is another thing. So I was always involved with stuff like this.
Yeah.
And actually, around that time, I was also doing music for a thing called Fright Vision. And Fright Vision was one of the first Comic Cons out of Cleveland in the 90s. And
Okay.
I brought in bands that played monster music. So this whole monster music thing is what the started
Sure.
off. So Kevin gets to say, "Well, I'm doing these Living Dead weekends. I'd sure like somebody other than myself to interview these people who were zombies, who were just a lot of local people." So it was pretty easy and pretty laid back.
Sure.
Steel City Con, I forget which year. It might have been 2010, 2010 or 2012. It was the first year that it was the year George Takei was there. And this was a while ago, the first time he was there, not the second time. So I'm
Yeah.
probably thinking, well, I've been doing Steel City Con for 11, 12 years. It's been a chunk of change. So needless to
Yes.
say, they're looking to actually change up the Comic Con, because at that time the Comic Con was just celebrities coming in, signing autographs. Boom, here's your autograph, here's your picture, we're done. And at that time, the old owner said,
Hmm.
"Wow, I'd really like to have Q&As. Look at this. I'm watching this stuff called the San Diego Comic Con. They're actually interviewing these people." And
Right.
it really gets to be it's the highlight for me, because the people who don't want to spend the money or can't spend the money on an autograph, they can actually hear like a real good, pretty good panel. So
Right. And I've sat through many of those. And I can tell you, the ones I think, oh, I don't really care about this one, but I don't feel like moving. I'm too tired, are the ones I really enjoy.
yeah,
Because people that are watching after say it's not easy interviewing somebody. I mean,
yeah,
this is easy because you're doing a lot of talks. I'm like, oh, this is like a great interview. But when you're interviewing, it's hard sometimes interviewing people. You get one word answers.
yeah. Oh yeah, oh yeah. You get
Yeah,
that.
it's
That
really hard interviewing people.
that is where the improv training comes in.
Yeah.
And it really is. I've interviewed. I'll still talk about the Living Dead thing. I've interviewed like the guy that made title cards, like for the Living Dead. Night of Living Dead. I interviewed him and made it a really fascinating interview.
Yeah.
I was asking
Right.
him how he got into like animation and how that old kind of film stock used to work. And he actually goes, man, you really made this, you really made this sound like something. When I
You
was just
have to, right?
when I was just somebody that did the title cards for Night of the Living Dead. So the guy that used to own they used to own the Comic Con contacted Kevin, saying, Kevin, man, I'd like you to come out and host. I'm thinking of Q&As. And he says, can you find anybody? I think there's some guy in Baltimore that does this. And Kevin goes, well, why don't you just get Zombo here? He lives right in town. Goes, who's this guy? Goes, just meet him and let me know what you think. So this is the job interview. I'm not making this up.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
so did I tell you this story before? Because this is my favorite.
Parts of it. Parts of
Part.
it.
So he says, meet me at Panera. He says, meet me at Panera, like say 10 o'clock tomorrow. So I meet this guy, and I'm dressed fairly casual. I'm not going to wear a suit or anything.
No,
I
no.
don't know where this is going, and I don't know this guy. So I can't believe this. So I meet the guy at Panera. I shake his hand. He pauses a moment and says, I really like the way you looked at me in the eye. You made eye contact with me. You want the job? That was the interview. That was
What the heck?
yeah,
That's never happened before in my life.
he said, I like the way you looked into my eyes when you talked to me and said hello. He says, do you want? So I'm like, sure. And I kind of started all of that up from scratch because I really had, other than just watching, if you watch the San Diego Comic Con, it's a completely different animal because a lot of times the questions are taken from the audience and they're written down. So they're
Yeah,
reading the
right.
cards. They don't
Right.
trust the audience or
No.
or it's hosted by another celebrity. Now, how I get away with what I get away with. Because I like to do my like 10, 15 questions up front. I like to do that first. And then I like the audience to get a chance. So a great way to do that is to have like another person help me. And while I'm asking one person a question, the other person can say, what's your question about? And kind of screen it a little bit.
Sure, you have to.
Yeah, have to. And I'll be honest with you, as long as I've been doing this, I don't know if you were there was one Q&A that defied all of this. It was when Linda Blair was there from The Exorcist. So Linda Blair actually comes up and she goes, hey, sweetheart, because she's smoking. Hey, sweetheart, I'll tell you everything you want to know about The Exorcist in 15 minutes, but I want to talk about she had that kind of voice, a lot of
Right,
cigarettes.
right,
So
right.
she goes, I want to talk about my vegan cookbook and I want to talk about my animal rescue. And I'm like,
Yeah,
this is
right. She's big in that, right?
this is your time. Sure, go ahead. So she's talking and talking and talking and talking. And about 40 minutes of this has gone by. And people are sitting around, nobody's leaving because it's just kind of like, it was somewhat interesting. And it's Linda
Yeah,
Blair for crying out loud. And
sure.
plus they're waiting to get a question. I says, well, we got time for a couple questions. Now, this guy looked completely normal. He had a Batman t-shirt on. So you think, okay, Batman t-shirt. Okay. He raises his hand for a question. Just me. And I pick him and he goes, Miss Blair, the band AC/DC has a drummer by the name of Phil Rude. Now, Phil Rude was recently arrested for putting a contract out on somebody. Now, AC/DC can't tour because he's basically been incarcerated by the police. Can you get me in contact with their manager? Because I'm a professional drummer and I know I could go on tour with AC/DC. and Linda Blair goes, I don't know who you think I am, honey, but I can't help you. And that's all the time we have. Bye. So that was a dilly.
Yeah. Who was your favorite interview, Michael?
Oh my gosh. Uh, favorite people. I'll go favorite people to interview, and then I'll go favorite interview. Favorite
Okay.
people to interview was Adam West. Adam West was absolutely a gem.
Yeah.
You met Adam West. Adam West didn't talk about Adam West. Adam West wanted to talk about you. He would say, oh, so what do you do? All I know is Batman. Oh, that's fascinating. You do voiceover work for blah, blah, blah. That kind of thing. Adam West was genuinely interested in what anybody else had to say. He was really excellent. My favorite interview was John Cleese. John Cleese, you know the story? This is so wonderful. This is my favorite Comic-Con story. Always a fan of Monty Python, but I'm also a fan of like older comedy. W.C. Fields, Laurel and Hardy, Charlie Chase, Charlie Chaplin, all that really old stuff. So I'm interviewing Cleese and I'm asking, and he keeps reverting back to comedy he grew up with. And he's like, I can't remember the one film with W.C. Fields. He says, oh, you mean It's a Gift? And he was like, shocked, goes, you know that film? I go, yeah, I'm very familiar with it. And
Yeah.
he goes, and then your show of shows with Sid Caesar. And I go, yeah, and Imogene Coca. Buck Henry, I think, was one of the writers with Mel Brooks. And he's like, he really knows that I get it. So we have this really great interview. And then we're ready to start this thing with the Scream panel, which was 7 people. We had to get him up on stage. We had to get John Cleese off stage because his interview was going so long because he was so good. And I
Yeah.
was having such a great time just hanging out with like a comic legend, but a cool guy. So I says, well, that's all the time we have. He goes, I'm not leaving. I go, pardon me? He goes, no, I'm going to stay up here with you. So I'm got a little bit farther and I go, okay, that's all. He goes, no, you don't understand. I'm not going back to my table. I'm not doing anything. I'm gonna stay here and I'm gonna keep talking to you. And we're already like 5 minutes past 5
Right.
minutes when you're supposed to be gone. So I just got this crazy idea the last minute. He goes, hey, I got this great idea, John. Everybody get up out of your seats. Let's all go to John's table and we're all gonna have a Q&A at John's table. And John laughed about that and I got him off stage and he takes
Yeah.
off. But that went really well. I'm hustling and bustling, trying to get the people from the Scream panel on. John's agent comes over and goes, come here, come here. And it's just so crazy. He goes, John wants to speak to you. I go, what the hell? John was speaking. I go out. John's waiting for me in the hallway. He puts me in this big bear hug and starts growling like a maniac. And all I could remember was a line from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I said, help, help, I'm being repressed, which is a line from Holy Grail. He starts laughing, gives me a hug, and says, see you later. And that to me was just like, here's a guy that I was so I didn't get starstruck, which is great. I don't go down that road. I just consider they're very interesting people with a very
Yes.
interesting job. And you
Right.
have to look at it. You can't go, oh my God, this guy's a god. He's a this and that. You can't do that or you're going to choke. They're just
Right.
people
Right.
doing jobs.
So speaking about some of the things you do, the live music, and I have the DVD right here,
Oh, yay.
the Polkamaniacs.
Yeah.
How did the Polkamaniacs get started?
Oh, this is kind of a crazy idea. So I've always done some music and I've always done fun music. Like I'm saying, I did a monster band that did like
Yeah.
rockabilly monster music. And in 2018, I don't know if you know, but I ran for state representative. I don't
No,
know
yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
yeah, so I figured, that's one of those things. Like if at first you don't succeed, just get the hell out. So my campaign slogan should have been, I've done dumber stuff. But and that was I took 16 months away from everything just because I wanted to be, try and do something that I thought would make a difference. And so obviously I came in second out of 2 people. So anyhow, when that came down, I says, wow, I still would like to do something that would kind of help people out. And I do all this this Comic Con stuff. He says, wow, ridiculous polka band would really cheer people up. And it took me a year to get people because everybody thought it was, that's a dumb idea. That's a dumb, I can't, I'm not gonna, even my wife was saying, I don't know who you're going to get for your dumb polka band. And I ended up not giving up. I got some people. The first practice was a guy showed up with a tuba who couldn't play it, a guy who didn't have a drum set but was playing a pie pan, and a female singer who put a clarinet in her mouth but couldn't play it. That was the first practice. And
Okay.
obviously those people kind of went by the wayside, but I never gave up. And I thought this would be great. I wrote some really fun polka tunes. And that was
Yeah.
in 2019 when I first started that band. Just because I wanted to just do the craziest thing live, I don't know, why not? Life's too short to do serious stuff all the
And the
time.
CD is great. I
Thank
mean, I
you.
haven't been to see you in person yet.
Yeah.
I know you came to my church, but I couldn't make it. But the CD is wonderful. Just some of these songs, Little Pierogi,
Yeah. She's my little program.
Little Pierogi. Uh, oh my gosh, there's so many here. The Edgar Allan Polka,
Polka. Yes.
Polka,
Yeah.
Polka. Yeah,
P-O-E.
Polka. I
P-O-E.
mean, how do you come up with these things?
It's when I'm taking a shower. When you take a shower, do you know you get your best ideas when? That's why people sing in the shower. They
Yeah.
actually say that it changes your brain waves. That's why
Yeah.
people sing in the shower, or people, when you're in the shower, you just have nothing better to do, and then all of a sudden your mind just kind of wanders. So yeah, so songs like that just come up. Or if I can't sleep at night, if I have insomnia, I'll just
Yeah.
kind of, I got this idea for this thing. And like I'm saying, some of these songs, I hate to say it, it might not sound this way, but have taken like a year or so to write.
Yeah.
Because I'll get the idea, I'll shelve it, I'll get a little melody in my head,
Right, right,
hop
right.
around, it'll come back. And this has been going on. And I always say I write songs like a clever 12-year-old. So, so it just comes like that. And um, I wrote songs when I was like 10 and 12 years old, but they're and real dumb songs when I was a kid. I would
Yeah,
just I know I always had to entertain myself. I had a very
right.
old brother, still just brother and sister, very much older, in a neighborhood with not a lot of kids my age. So it was like one of those things where what would I do to entertain myself? So I start writing really ridiculous songs, and it just all comes back into this. So yeah, it's just a question of not not telling yourself you can't do something. Like I always say, I'd rather do something I regret than not do something and then regret it.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So all this that we've talked about, and we could go on for hours and talk
Yeah. I'm
about
sorry.
things. But what's next for Michael Devine? What's next for you?
Here's the thing is I figured I reached this really, and that's the other thing people really have to figure out. Know when you're on a plateau. Know when you're in a nice spot where you can rest. You don't always have to work. You
Right.
can actually say, "Hey, listen, I've got this. I'm, you're never going to be successful enough." And I think that's why
Yeah.
some
True.
people that like, especially celebrities, why they are just not that happy because they thought, "Oh, I'm going to get this, and then I'll be happy." Well, then you get this, and you still you want more, and
Right.
you know when to walk away from the gambling table, know when to say, hey, I made enough money, I'm going to just kind of hang out now and
Enjoy life.
enjoy life. And it's a thing, I don't have any kids or anything, so I don't have to worry about
Yeah.
taking care of anybody other than myself, so that's kind of nice. But it's one of
Right.
these things where it's just doing what you love and not paying much mind to. When I was in high school, I was always like the nerd, the goofy guy, that kind of thing, and always super shy. And once I really stopped caring what other people thought, man, did that open a big door up. When
Yeah.
you
So
stop.
where can we find out about the Polkamaniacs, where they're playing?
The website is www.thepolkamaniacs.com. And
Okay, and we'll have that too in the credits so people can find that because
thank
I
you.
think it's going to be an experience to be there live and hear all this, and it's just so much
Really
fun.
fun. It really is fun. It's unlike anything that I've ever done before. And I have incredibly talented musicians. My brother actually had a great line. He goes, "How did you get such great musicians to play your stupid polka music?"
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Well, I did see. I think it was last Christmas, or maybe the Christmas before, when you and I don't remember what show it was on, but you did Heat Miser, the
yeah, we did.
Misers.
We did Heat Mice. That was on WQED.
Yeah,
We were contacted to do what they call their holiday collection, and
so much fun.
we could pick a Christmas song, and people are picking like a soulful version of Jingle Bells or, God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. And I'm like, dude, I want to do Heat Miser, Snow Miser, but I want to
That
do it
was
as,
great.
but I wanted to do it as a bossa nova. So we kind of make it like a summer thing. And we were freezing when we recorded that. We went to, I forget where it was. It was one of these, like some nature center.
Hmm.
That's near McDonald, PA, that big, beautiful nature center. They had us there. We were like in this big tunnel of lights, and it was
Yeah,
freezing. And we had like our polka outfits on, which are just like these plaid jackets and plaid,
yeah,
not bundled up at all. And it was just really funny. We just kind of, lip sync the song, and it really was really a cute thing for them to do it. And it's just like, wow, that's kind of a nice thing, fun thing to do.
yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. And I know that the audience is going to love this interview, and they're going to love your story about how you persevered and just kept going. And like you said, if it doesn't work, try something else.
Yes.
You never know till you try it.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
I'd like to thank my guest, Michael Devine, for sharing his stories from his past. What an amazing journey when he decided he wanted to do something different and leave his corporate job. He is a true meaning of enjoying your life, doing what you love. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.